It's game day on the University of Alabama campus, and you're looking live at Bryant-Denny Stadium, where in just under 10 hours from now, two of the most storied programs in college football history will square off on the gridiron. It's the Crimson Tide and the Nittany Lions, and we break it all down starting right now. Next on Crimson Tide Kickoff.
Understand you're playing against one of the best college teams we've ever played against.
The legend of Joe Pa comes back to the house that Bear Bryant built. We'll break down the game, compare coaches, and look back at the moments that made this series great. Bowman. Also ahead, can a freshman quarterback handle the difficult Tide defense? And will a depleted Bama lineup matter in a showdown of top 25 foes? Plus, we'll go around the SEC, talk live with guests, and get predictions from a man who knows both politics and football. If this show wasn't on, well, that would just be bad.
And I think it would be a crying shame.
It's Crimson Tide Kickoff, and it's next.
Live from the campus of the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Kickoff with Gary Harris and John Huddleston. Brought to you by AT&T and by Alpha Insurance.
Another game day, another week of tailgating, more big plays, more creative coaching, and of course, more of Crimson Tide Kickoff. Back for round two of the big show. Along with Gary Harris, I'm John Huddleston. You ready to go today?
Ready or not. I tell you, a little bit different.
A little muggy today, isn't it?
You know, last Saturday we were bragging about the weather. Unseasonably cool, low humidity. Well, guess what? Alabama weather is back. It is muggy already at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, it is. And this is Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by Alpha Insurance and AT&T, the official wireless communications provider for Crimson Tide Athletics. AT&T, rethink possible. A lot coming up today, Gary.
Indeed, John. We got a lot to talk about on the program this morning. We'll be joined by several guests, including ESPN's Brad Edwards and veteran sports writer Malcolm Moran, who now is employed by the Pennsylvania State University. So he'll have an interesting take on today's game. And we'll also talk about how this ball game today is making one couple a house divided.
But first this morning, we set the scene for you. And when you talk about college football tradition and prestige, Alabama and Penn State are usually at the top of the list. Today's game will be the first meeting between the Tide and the Nittany Lions since 1990. The series, though, has been filled with great plays and great moments. None bigger than the 1979 game and the goal line stand. But that was more than 30 years ago. Joe Paterno is still at the top of his coaching game in Happy Valley, but he now has to play a Nick Saban-led Alabama team ranked #1 in the nation. The two coaches have faced each other before, back when Saban was the head coach at Michigan State.
You know, one thing when you play Joe Paterno coach teams, which we've had some experience doing, they do a great job of executing. They don't give you much. They really kind of win on effort, toughness, and execution and discipline. And I don't think this team is any different.
Well, when he was at Michigan State, they were good. You know, they were tough. His teams have played. When we played him in Michigan State, they played tough. But he's got better talent at Alabama than he had at Michigan State.
The two coaches have met a total of 5 times since Saban was at Michigan State. The Tide coach won only 2 of those meetings, but when you put that in context, it's really pretty impressive considering the Spartans have only beaten the Nittany Lions a total of 4 times in the history of the program. A key game between the pair came on November 29th, 1997, when the Spartans hammered the then #4 ranked Nittany Lions 49-14. It was a game that really helped put Coach Saban on top of the map. Saban's final game as a Spartan was also against Joe Pa on November 20th, 1999, with Michigan State winning 35-28. Gary?
All right, John, here's a quick scouting report on the Nittany Lions. They're currently 19th in the Associated Press poll, 14th in the coaches poll. Now, last week against Youngstown State, Robert Bolden became the first freshman quarterback to start a season opener at Penn State under Joe Paterno, and he played pretty well. Completed nearly 70% of his passes. He had 240 yards of offense, a couple of touchdowns. But Joe Pa is a little more concerned for his young quarterback's welfare this week. After all, he will be facing the top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide.
He's going to get knocked on his. We can't protect him like we did against Youngstown. He's going to get knocked around. He's going to have trouble finding open people. It's not going to be easy for him, but I don't think he's going to lose his poise. I think is he going to have the kind of success he had, against Youngstown? No, Alabama's too good for that.
And an interesting note on Robert Bolden. His uncle is former Crimson Tide and Miami Dolphin great Don McNeil. Now, you see the goal line stand all the time. We'll see it. We've already seen it. We'll see it several more times on this program this morning. But that goal line stand was set up by the fact that Don McNeil made a great tackle on a swing pass, forced the Penn State receiver out of bounds at the 1-yard line when it looked like he would score. That set up the goal line stand. Now, Robert Bolden has gotten a lot of attention and a lot of focus, but the leader on offense for the Nittany Lions, even though he only had 40 yards last week against Youngstown, is tailback Evan Royster. He is on pace to become Penn State's all-time leading rusher.
And Bama will be without their top running back today. Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram is unlikely to play this afternoon or this evening. Saban did not entirely rule him out. However, the coach says he doesn't want to rush Ingram back too soon. The Alabama running back has missed a lot of practice, but then again, this is Mark Ingram we're dealing with.
If there's anybody in the world that could play without practicing, it's probably Mark. All right, because he's a student of the game. He watches everything, he understands everything, he knows everything, and he's a tremendous competitor, and he's got a lot of experience, but we would never put him in that situation. We're not pushing Mark back in the game. All right, we're not pushing Mark back in this game. We're not jeopardizing his future, his career, or anything else.
So Alabama will probably be without Ingram, its best offensive player, and will certainly be without arguably its best defensive player. Marcel Darius suspended by the NCAA for 2 games after he attended an agent's party in South Beach earlier this year. Now, when we talked to you last week at this time, Alabama had planned to appeal according to Nick Saban, but upon further review, Saban said there just wasn't any precedent, no case for the Tide, so Darius will sit.
We don't really feel like we have a good precedent. We feel like, relative to the circumstance, this was pretty fair.
And later on in the program, we'll talk with ESPN's Brad Edwards about the loss of Darius and the probable loss of Mark Ingram and what that will mean for Alabama against Penn State this evening.
Time to get a first look at your game day forecast. Gary, I guess our weatherman is going to be the GQ guy of the group.
Yeah, he's always styling and profiling. Like I said last week at this time, he had so much good news to report. A little different take on the weather this morning, huh, Richard?
Hey, John and Gary, we're getting ready for Alabama football. Got a crowd out here today. We're ready to go, and it's going to be a hot day weather-wise. Show you that quick cast, what's happening here. We're talking temperatures in the low 80s at 10 o'clock. And we're starting off the day with lots of sunshine. Once we move towards 3 o'clock this afternoon, things will get a little bumpy. Some showers and storms will be back in the forecast. And check out the temperatures. Unlike last week, we're talking hot weather today, 94 for a high this afternoon, John and Gary. We are getting set for, again, Alabama football, and it's going to be a hot one today. We may have some storms later on this evening, and we'll have much more on weather coming up. John and Gary, back to you guys.
And thank you, Richard. Look forward to an update in just a little bit here on the show. And speaking of the show, John, we're really just getting cranked up. We've got a lot more still ahead.
Yes, we are. And up next, you knew he was a talent on the football field, but did you know Mark Ingram also has a talent swinging the golf club or maybe just juggling golf balls? We'll talk with the Heisman Trophy winner coming up.
And also later on, ESPN's Brad Edwards will be heading over to do his radio show shortly. But first, he'll stop by our set to talk about tonight's primetime matchup, as well as all things Alabama, and we'll even ask him about the BCS. He's an expert in that type of stuff. Stick around. This is Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by AT&T and Alpha Insurance.
Back here on Crimson Tide Kickoff, week number 2 for the big show. We'll be with you every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock right here on your home team station, WVUA. Thanks for getting up early with us today. If you notice the nice shirts that Gary and myself are wearing today and you like to get one, well, you don't have to go too far.
Yeah, matter of fact, it's in walking distance from where we're sitting right now, just up the University Strip. We'd like to thank the locker room for providing us with original elephant wear. The locker room has been a Tuscaloosa tradition for 46 years and is home of the original elephant wear. You can either drop by the store or check them out online at www.locker-room.biz. They've got some good stuff over there, so if you haven't been by, do so.
Well, here's something that you might not know about Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram. During his middle school years, he was an exceptional golfer before he turned his attention more towards football. But you see here in this YouTube video, Ingram has still got it. He still knows all the tricks. Here he is juggling the golf ball, imitating that Tiger Woods commercial from a few years back, and check out that swing.
It's so high, it's like a 9.
I used to do that when I was like in 7th and 8th grade. I used to do it all the time because that's when that commercial was out around that time. So anybody who golfed, everybody who golfed was trying to imitate it. And I got kind of good at it. I used to go through my legs and I used to bounce it up and hit it, but I don't golf that much anymore, so I'm kind of rusty with it. But I can still do it a little bit though.
All right, from the golf course back to football, how good is your team when the second team running back is a Sports Illustrated cover boy? Trent Richardson on this week's edition of SI with a headline reading, College Football Opening Statements, Breakout Players and Programs in Week 1. This is Alabama's 5th SI cover in the last year. Now that's more than any other college or pro team in any sport to be featured on the cover in the last year. It just goes to show you that SI knows a good thing when it sees it, and it also knows how to sell copies of its magazine, because when you put Bama on the cover, just about everybody in this state rushes to the newsstand.
And coming up next on Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by Alpha Insurance and AT&T. He's written for the New York Times as well as USA Today, and he now resides in the Happy Valley.
Indeed he does. We'll hear from a veteran sports writer who has a take on this Penn State-Alabama game from a unique perspective, and also some interesting Bear Bryant stories as well. That's straight ahead. But first, we've got Richard Scott.
Hey guys, coming up we have a look around the conference, a few SEC football forecasts, and there's a lot of storms out there. We'll talk about that coming up in weather. Stick around.